Prologue. I was 25 years old when I sneaked into my first acting class. I was finishing my studies at the Manhattan School of Music while performing professionally as a trombonist in symphony orchestras. But although I loved music, I didn't feel fulfilled. I found myself spending most of my time going to plays, both on and off Broadway. I was reading Stanislavski and the plays of Anton Chekhov, Eugene O'Neill, Tennessee Williams, Arthur Miller, Samuel Beckett, and Jean Genet. Finally, I sneaked into this class. When the teacher asked for someone to go on stage to do an improvisation, my hand flew up in the air. I volunteered so quickly because I was afraid that once I saw someone else on that stage, I'll be too shy to go up. So up I went, with no real idea what an acting improvisation was. I was to come in the door, a real door, upstage center. I was to do an improvisation that would tell the audience what the weather was outside. For some reason, while I was backstage, my imagination took off. I saw myself in the Irish countryside on a cold, stormy night. I was lost. There was a pub. In I came through the door. I shook the rain from my hat and coat. After a moment, I realized something was wrong. There was a silence. I looked around the pub. Unfriendly men were looking at me. I smiled, walked to a table, sat down, and waited for someone to take my order. No one came. I didn't look up. I was chilled and afraid. I felt unwelcome, utterly alone. I waited. The silence seemed dangerous. Suddenly, I slammed my fist on the table and yelled, "What the hell are you looking at?" Introduction. Most acting training is based on shame and guilt. If you have studied acting, you have been asked to do exercises you didn't understand. And when you did them, as your teacher judged it badly, you submitted guiltily to the criticism. You have also been asked to do exercises you did understand, but whose application to the craft of acting escaped you, and you were ashamed to ask that their usefulness be explained. As you did these exercises, it seemed that everyone around you understood their purpose, but you, so guiltily, you learned to pretend. You learned to pretend to smell the coffee when doing sensory exercises. You learned to pretend that the mirror exercise was demanding, and that doing it well would somehow make you more attuned on stage. You learned to pretend to hear the music with your toes, and to use the space. As you went from one class to the next, and from one teacher to the next, two things happened. Being human, you need to believe asserted itself. You were loath to believe your teachers were frauds. So you began to believe that you yourself were a fraud. This contempt for yourself became contempt for all those who did not share the particular bent of your school of training. While keeping up an outward show of a perpetual study, you began to believe that no actual, practicable technique of acting existed. and this was the only possible belief supported by the evidence. Now, how do I know these things about you? I know them because I suffered them myself. I suffered them as a long-time student of acting, and as an actor. I suffered them second-hand as a teacher of acting, as a director, and as a playwright. I know that you are dedicated and eager to learn, eager to believe, eager to find a way to bring that art that you feel in yourself to the stage. You are legitimately willing to sacrifice, and you think that the sacrifice required of you is a subjugation to the will of a teacher. But a more exacting sacrifice is required. You must follow the dictates of your common sense. It would be fine if there were many great master teachers of acting, but there are not. Most acting teachers, unfortunately, are frauds, and they rely on your complicity to survive. This not only deprives you of a positive training, but stifles your greatest gift as an artist, your sense of truth. It is this sense of truth, and simplicity, and feelings of wonder and reverence, all of which you possess, that will revitalize the theater. How do you translate them onto the stage? This book offers some wonderful, simple advice and suggestions. It is the best book on acting written in the last 20 years. The technical suggestions, finally, are reducible to a simple Stoic philosophy. Be what you wish to seem. Stanislavski once wrote that you should play well or badly, but play truly. It is not up to you whether your performance will be brilliant. All that is under your control is your intention. It is not under your control whether your career will be brilliant. All that is under your control is your intention. If you intend to manipulate, to show, to impress, you may experience mild suffering and pleasant triumphs. If you intend to follow the truth you feel in yourself, to follow your common sense, and force your will to serve you in the quest for discipline and simplicity, you will subject yourself to profound despair, loneliness, and constant self-doubt. And if you persevere, the theater, which you are learning to serve, will grace you, now and then, with the greatest exhilaration it is possible to know. David Mamet, Cabot, Vermont, 1985.